he seemed to be kind of a rival to Jerry Rice for a short period of time. Then he got his neck hurt. And then I was like, you kind of like talked me out of it. I was like, okay, he's kind of right. But my other 5 before the 15, I had Don Hudson. It really felt weird that I couldn't really talk about receivers when basically the guy that was pretty much the grandfather of the modern receiver was not in there. I mean, his stats were just amazing. But also, like you said before, you're talking about that era of football where they just basically was 3 runs and done. He had 99 touchdowns. And, I mean, it was just crazy what he had, like his stats-wise. 99 touchdowns, almost 8,000 yards, 488 yards. But that's small potatoes in today's world. And also in the other 4, I had Fred Biletnikoff because he has the receiver award named after him in college. Kind of hard not to put him in there. Art Monk, Andre Reed, and James Lofton rounds out my the 6 people that didn't make it to my 15.
I got some honorable mentions. I just want to say, let you know, I did not put anybody in my era that I did not see play. So we have a nice little time frame. I also didn't put anybody in the era from when it was allowed to use Stickum. If you don't understand what I'm saying, somebody go look up Lester Hayes from the Raiders, okay? So, and understand what the whole body was covered in it. So, granted, I mean, that was in the 60s, late 70s, but I can imagine what was happening. So I don't have anybody like Don Hudson or Raymond Berry. I don't have any of those people. It's a totally different game. But I do have some honorable mentions. So my honorable mentions I have in this scenario, and this is gonna be kind of weird because some people are gonna look at me crazy. So Art Monk, I loved Art Monk with the now Commanders, but used to be the Washington Redskins. Charlie Joyner, Michael Irvin, Mike Evans, Julio Jones, Hines Ward, Fred Biletnikoff, and oh no, I'm sorry, not Art Monk, James Lofton. I'm not James Lofton. Damn it, I'm giving away people. Lance Allworth. Right. It's Lance Allworth that's in the. You're revealing too soon. So I had a lot of fun, but yeah, Lance Allworth is the other guy. So those are all my honorable mentions. Sam, if you want to go ahead and give up yours, buddy.
So I mean, when I was doing the list, I like the moment I hit 15, I was like, I tapped out. But if I had to do an honorable mention, same with Eric, I kind of like to pick people that I got to see. So I'm only 28, so it's definitely a shorter list than anything else. But I was, Roddy White, being a Falcons fan, he didn't make my list. Andre Reed was on there because I did look him up, but I was like, I didn't really watch him play, so I didn't really get to go for it too much. And Steve Largent was one of the ones I was considering too. But I also did the argument of I don't really watch him, so I can't really I didn't really know what to say about him.
Got you.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely understand that. Now, in my 15, there is one guy that I did not watch live. I watched.
You're sideways.
Oh, your camera switched.
Why did it do that?
I don't know. It went from a green screen. It went to a green screen, and then it switched, and you were.
Yeah, you were green, and then
I didn't know if you were trying to
Hulk mode.
I was about to follow along. I was about to say, "Fuck it, let's go."
Let's see what's going on. I'm
yeah.
So I do have one guy who is that I did not watch, and it is actually Lance Allworth for my 15th one. I watched enough highlights. I kind of consider myself kind of a football historian. Like I like watching the old players. I like watching your Gale Sayers. I like watching your Dick Butkus. I like watching the players. When I coach my players, I always tell them like, hey, if you want to be great, look at the great ones before you. Take a piece of their game, bring it to your own, make it your own. The reason why I picked Lance Allworth as my number 5 is he actually has the most career touchdowns that were over 70 yards. If you watch how he plays and everything, he is fluid throughout the whole. There's a reason why his nickname was Bambi. Dude looks like a deer bounding around out there. He only had. Huh?
Sorry, my dog's name is Bambi.
Oh, he's like, yes.
She's just chilling there.
But he, he had only 542 catches for over 10,000 yards. He had 85 touchdowns. He was basically a deep threat every time he got on the field. And in 1965, he led the league in yardage with 1,600 yards and had an astounding yards per reception at 23.2 yards per catch and 114 yards per game. Just an amazing player. He's my number 15. Whoever wants to go second.
All right, so my number 15 is Art Monk. I gave that away earlier. It's Art Monk. I had Lance Allworth at 14 originally, and I moved him out. And the big reason why is I went back and watched some of his highlights, and it's almost like watching like Jim Brown highlights where he looks so much better than everybody else on the field. But my first thought is they have no clue how to defend him. Like, at least with Jim Brown, he was running people over and they knew how to tackle. This guy, you could see he has the ability, but I think more or less he was just that unicorn that the defenses at the time had no clue how to do. Art Monk at one point in time, I think wasn't he like the fastest dude in the league? Or was that the other?
Had the best hands.
Yeah, that was the other guy I think that was on.
Darrell Green.
Darrell Green. Okay. Yep. So Art Monk had 12,721 yards, 940 receptions, and 68 touchdowns. So played in the mid 80s, late 80s, probably early 90s. I don't exactly have when they wrote it down. But I remember watching him play. My dad used to hate watching him play. He's a Raiders fan. He hated absolutely watching him because he would make people look stupid. But that's my number 15. Go ahead, Sam.
So my number 15, I completely forgot to take notes on him because, like, like when you're writing an school and you're like right at the end and you just give up.
Yep.
So I did pick him because I was thinking about it for a little bit. I put Chad Ochocinco Johnson.
Nice.
On there. I think his time with Cincinnati, he was a very electric player. He put up some great numbers. Not nothing crazy, but like he was still like I feel like when teams had to play him, like you had to take note of what he was. I'd still call him a bit of a douche, though, because he's the reason why that people couldn't celebrate anymore because he went over the top of it. But he was still like just such an electric player out there. Like he really did help Cincinnati when he was there with Carson Palmer. I don't think they'd be as great without him. Like he was just that much of a good talent for them.
And that was a hell of a combination that they had with him and TJ.
Yeah, with TJ Houshmandzadeh.
Yeah. So going up to number 14, I have Michael Irvin, the playmaker. This probably low for a few people, but I think he fits right here because he really played on a team that was a run dominant team with Emmitt Smith, and of course what felt like the Chinese Great Wall of China that was blocking for him. He had 750 catches. Just shy of 12,000 yards and 65 touchdowns. He was the last Tom Landry player that was ever drafted by the great Tom Landry that retired, and he had 7 1,000-yard seasons. He was one of the triplets. He won 3 Super Bowls. He had 3 All-Pro seasons, 5 Pro Bowls, and he was on the 1990s All-Decade team. He was amazing in the fact that he wasn't overly fast, because he had Alvin Harper on the other side of the ball, but he could catch just about anything that was thrown to him. And whenever someone came to try to tackle him, it usually took 2 people. He was big, strong, really quick hooks and everything like that. Michael Irvin, the playmaker.
So you said it might be a little low. I have Michael Irvin at 19. And when I originally put Michael Irvin in, I had him at 16. And everything that you said about the team made me drop him down.
Right.
Just because of the fact that he was absolutely amazing. But so was that your camera. So was that
I'm messing with it now.
Okay, so was that. I was gonna say, dude, you gotta fucking ghost it. You gotta bring a ghost in your house, dude. What is going on? Okay, so my number 14 is James Lofton.
Okay, there.
He played from 78 till 93 with Green Bay, Raiders a little bit, in Buffalo. I remember him playing with Buffalo mostly. He was also, if I'm not mistaken, he has 8 Pro Bowls, 1 All-Pro team. He's in the Hall of Fame, and he's on the Hall of Fame all 1980s team. His stats are, well, since I have him here, I can just do this. He has 764 receptions, 14,000 yards with 75 touchdowns. He averaged 18.3 yards per reception. He also played in an era where they could literally take your head off and mug you the whole way down the field. So, and he played against a lot of those tough teams like the Bears, 1985 Bears, the Steelers defense. He played against a lot of them. Go ahead, Sam. Who you got next? I'll pull him up.
Number 14, I got Hines Ward.
Oh, I had him on my. Yep.
I think he did great. He has 12,000 career yards. You know, he didn't put up the greatest numbers because he did share the ball a lot with because he did have good number twos in Santonio Holmes. He had I was just thinking about him a second ago too. I think Antoine Randall was there a little bit, but he was the Mr. Consistency for that team. Like he really, you know, without him, like there was no way that these number twos were gonna get open like that or even have like any looks their way if it wasn't for him like taking over some of that heat. He was that menace out there, and I believe he won Dancing with the Stars, which is what I also remember from him. You got to remember the stuff they did off the field.
It's right there.
Right there.
Dancing with the Stars.
1,000 receptions right on the mark.
Yeah.
When I think of Hines Ward, the first thing I think of is when he broke Keith Rivers' jaw with that awesome. I mean, the one thing about Hines Ward I love the most is the man would block for his running backs.
Oh yeah, he would. He made sure those running backs go unlike today's Steelers receivers.
Yeah, and crazy stat that I pulled up on James Lofton because, folks, we changed our list quite a bit from the time that we started doing this.
You had me reconsidering my list right as we hit record. As we hit live, to be real with you.
James Lofton was actually my number 12 at one point, and one interesting thing I found out about him when I was doing the research was he was the NCAA long jump champion in 1978.
Wow.
So
right before he got drafted.
Dropping facts.
We got to find these nuggets throughout the show, don't we?
That's a great nugget. That is a great nugget. You
ready for another nugget? Steve Largent is my number 13. And did you know that he wasn't even drafted by the Seahawks? Mm-hmm. A lot of people didn't know. I didn't know that. He was originally drafted by the Oilers, and he was about to get cut before they traded him for an 8th round pick to the Seahawks. And all he did after that was just get 819 receptions, 13,000 yards receiving, and 100 touchdowns. And at one time had every single major receiving record that you could possibly have.
Yep.
And, you know, 5-time All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler. I caught him towards the end of his career. So after this, kind of like Sam, my list is going to be people I actually saw. And you know, I did see him, and I remember there was one play in particular where a guy picked off the ball and he just lowered the boom on him. Like you would have thought this dude was Steve Atwater at one point. He hit him that hard. And I think it was Steve Atwater he put the hit on. But, you know, he was always known for his hands. He could catch just about anything. Wasn't overly fast. He was just a guy that you kind of saw off the street that played his butt off. So, I mean, Steve Largent, number 13 for me.
I'll talk about him coming up shortly. I have Andre Reed as my number 13. Andre Reed played 90% of his career with Buffalo, 1 year with Washington. He had 951 receptions for 13,198 yards, 87 touchdowns, averaged 13.9 yards per reception. He also ended up with a rushing touchdown. He had 75 rushing attempts for 500 yards over his career. 7-time Pro Bowl. He's in the Hall of Fame. I remember specifically a couple games against this team when we had Joe Montana on the Chiefs. And I remember I could not stand Andre Reed. But yeah, he is my number 13. You'll start to see that some of my guys I have is because I've been watching football for a while and my dad's a huge football fan. So I have like these little things that just as soon as it happens, I'm like, I remember that stupid catch against us.
It's always just against your team, you know?
Exactly.
So for my number 13, I'm going to kind of start this off with a bit of a story, but I actually never really got to watch this player play, but I did look him up because of the movie he was in of The Longest Yard. I'm not going to repeat anything you guys said, but my number 13 is Michael Irvin.
Okay.
Mr. Deacon Moss, because I was like, how the hell is he jumping over these people? I understand it's a movie, but like he's making these people look like they're children.
Mhm.
So I did look him up. Besides the fact that he's a bit of an ass, considering that he threatened to kill someone over a haircut, he still was really cool. Like, he was really good. Like, he was an extra weapon out there to help those Cowboys in Dynasty, and I thought that was just amazing. Like, younger me was like very interested in looking him up after seeing The Longest Yard, and I was just impressed with what he was able to do.
All those Cowboys were on PEDs. They were all on coke. Okay, they were all on coke.
That makes sense.
Yeah, there used to be a running joke that said, "What is a drug ring in Dallas called?"
Cowboys.
A huddle.
Yeah, Michael Irvin got caught, I think, going through the airport with coke.
Yeah, I believe he did. Like, that was one of the things, because he's just that's the reason also why I didn't want to put him any higher. Like, yeah, he did amazing things, but motherfucker was a bit of an asshole and just drugged up.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was gonna say he definitely had his issues off the field, and like you said, with the knife and the scissor incident.
Yeah, like when he threatened the guy over a haircut.
Oh no, he stabbed.
A lot of those old players that were on the powder had Lawrence Taylor. A lot of them had those anger issues.
Yeah, they did. And I mean, when you play defense, you're supposed to have an anger issue anyway. So
Yeah.
This is how you let it out.
yes.
I
So
listen
my,
to Terry Crews.
so my number 12, we're going to Atlanta. We're picking up Julio Jones. So this guy, he's one of like 4 people that have a 300-yard game. It was kind of crazy that he didn't score a touchdown in that game, but he also, we talked a little bit about it before we got on here. He has probably one of the most iconic, I can't believe he caught that, catches in the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, we're not going to talk about what happened in that Super Bowl, but
I don't know what you're talking about. The Falcons haven't been to the Super Bowl since 1999.
yeah.
That wasn't a good one either, so you might want to go back some.
And they haven't been to a Super Bowl.
Super Bowl.
Y'all dirty bird y'all way right into a butt whooping that down.
Well, maybe Ray Buchanan just put it in his pants. We would have been fine.
Well, he couldn't help. I guess that undercover cop was very attractive, but
Tell Shannon to stop setting people up like that.
true. But Julio Jones just had the perfect size. He wasn't even like the first receiver drafted in his draft. It was actually AJ Green from Georgia. Me being an Alabama fan, also, this was like when he left, I was like, that dude's going to be a star. He helped me win a fantasy football championship that year. And I mean, size, speed, hands, everything. This dude had it all with his stats. Let me grab that real quick. He was the fastest to ever get to 13,000 yards. And he did it in 137 games, which is what, a little under 10 years. So 5-time All-Pro, 7-time Pro Bowler. When he retires, if he is not a first-round ballot Hall of Famer, that would be a shame. That would be up there with probably Terrell Owens as far as someone that deserves to probably be a first-round ballot in my eyes.
All right, we're at 12, right? Yeah, my number 12 is Andre Johnson from the Houston Texans. There's two. He had what was it? 1,062 receptions, 14,185 yards, 70 touchdowns. I also have a question. Somebody name a quarterback that he played with.
Matt
Andre
Schaub.
Johnson.
Yeah, Matt. Thank you. He played with Matt Schaub. Okay. Let's like if he would have been on any good team, he would have destroyed these numbers.
Yes.
Also, he was about those hands. Him and Cortland
Mm-hmm.
Finnegan punching the helmet.
Dude.
So I definitely, that's my number 12.
I think that was like his career highlight.
7 times Pro Bowl, 2 times All Pro, and a Hall of Fame.
And 3 2-pieces to Cortland Finnegan's head.
Boy,
Exactly.
I think everyone was thrilled about that. Like I wasn't. I remember watching it live. I was like, "Yeah, hit him again."
Everybody hated Cortland Finnegan, and Andre Johnson just said, "I'm done. Let's go." From that moment on, I was a fan of his. Anybody that wants to 2-piece somebody up on a football field when you can actually tackle them, I'm okay with.
Mm-hmm.
And not like the 2-piece where you hold somebody in 2-piece, where y'all actually square up and fight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So for my number 12, I'm sticking with a different Houston receiver, actually. He's traveled around a little bit now, though, recently. I'm going with DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay.
Besides the fact, you made an argument, Eric, just a second ago, who did Andre Johnson play with? When DeAndre Hopkins was in Houston, Who did he play with? He played with Deshaun Watson. He put it in good places for him, but he also put it in bad places for him. Quite a few often, actually. And just to see him like grab everything, like the one catch I really think of the most though was that catch he had against the Steelers, where like he had to bobble it around with one hand while his body is like flying out of bounds and just kept it in. Like no man should be able to run like that.
Dropping a pass.
Yes, he went, I believe, 2 years without dropping a pass as well.
That's crazy.
And if we have to also really think about what he's done as well, the Hail Murray that went to him, like catching it over 3 Bills defenders, like you can't teach that.
Mm-hmm.
No,
you cannot teach that raw talent right there.
Not only that, he also ended the career of Dante Hall in a clip on, I believe it was Hard Knocks.
Yes, Hard Knocks.
In preseason.
In preseason, he crippled that.
What was it, D'Angelo Hall, right?
Oh, D'Angelo Hall, my bad.
He tore his legs up. He caught a Hail Murray. He is the reason why Will Levis had a great game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, let me see something real quick. Yeah, he is actually currently ranked 23rd amongst receivers in yardage.
Yeah, he's
probably not going to get a lot higher.
12,355. If he stays on the tight,
he'll probably get to 13.5, maybe 14. That's still good.
Yeah. He needs to get out of Tennessee. That's honestly the big thing for him.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah.
So my number 11, and this was because I had to keep looking back at things. I have Reggie Wayne coming in at number 11. Dude was just he wasn't the fastest guy, but my God, he could catch anything. Like if it was in arm's reach or even like 2 feet away from his arm's reach, he was catching it. 1,070 catches, 14,345 yards, 82 touchdowns. I'm pretty sure you're going to hear one of his teammates on a couple of these other lists, but the crazy thing about him, one of his crazy stats I actually pulled up was he did not score a single touchdown till week 3 of his second season. And I thought he, because anytime I saw him, he was always catching a touchdown. It felt like harder. Yeah.
Marvin Harrison, and who was their tight end? Dallas Clark.
Dallas Clark.
So, I mean,
loaded.
Yeah.
Loaded.
And then
they had a great weapons, like skill position players there.
Oh,
he would have games back there too.
Yeah, I was going to say they would have a lot more rings if they just had defense back then. I mean, they had Freeney and Bob Sanders. That was it. So,
Or if Brady never became Brady.
If Brady never became Brady.
If Drew Bledsoe didn't get tattooed by
exactly.
So,
it's always Buffalo's fault.
Always. All right, what you got for number 11?
All right, so my number 11. Now, I don't know if anybody even has him on this list, which is kind of crazy to me. My number 11 is Steve Smith Sr., who I promise, pound for pound, might be the best receiver all time. And I'm putting him up there with Jerry Rice, even though just basically on size. The dude is 2 inches taller than me. Now, granted, he outweighs me by a lot. He's 5'9", 195. He was a kick returner, a punt returner, and I'm not even including those yards. So just as a receiver, he played 16 years. He caught 1,031 passes, 14,731 yards with 81 touchdowns. So for somebody that is 5'9", and there's too many highlights. And then he was also that guy that not only would he looked for trouble. Like he looked for contact. He was running people over, making miraculous catches. 5-time All-Pro or 2-time All-Pro, five-time Pro Bowler, 2005 Comeback Player of the Year because I think he got severely injured. And most of that was in Carolina. Now, don't get me wrong, they had Jake Delhomme. But who else?
Cam Newton for a good
before he got hurt.
Yeah, Cam Newton. So you got Cam Newton. What year did Cam Newton get drafted in?
11.
Okay, so he had him for 4 years, 3 years. Yeah, 3 years.
And then he made Joe Flacco look pretty good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I mean, I've always loved him. Maybe it's because I was a small receiver / cornerback, but yeah, I've always loved him. So yeah, that's my number 11.
My number 11, I picked Isaac Bruce. one of the receivers from the Greatest Show on Turf. You know, he was a key piece in there. I feel like he was a great receiver. He put up over 15,000 yards. He had 91 touchdowns. And honestly, like as much as I like Kurt Warner, I don't even remember who the other receiver was.
Torrey Holt.
Who?
Torrey Holt.
Yeah, Torrey Holt. That's who it is. But I feel like just the Greatest Show on Turf really was kind of built, around Isaac Bruce and Marshall Faulk, and I think he was just a really key piece of that team.
Nope, I agree.
No, and like Steve Smith, I've always liked Steve Smith.
He's such a great player, Steve Smith.
Yeah. Number 10, I think really and truthfully, his career kind of like took a side piece when just went off the rails as soon as Vontae Burfict popped him in the head that one time. And
Antonio
it
Brown.
just, yep, Antonio Brown.
I knew where you were going.
Yeah, he was probably, in my opinion, probably one of the best. It's one of those what ifs with Antonio Brown. Dude already had 928 yards, 12,000 yards, 83 touchdowns. He did it with Ben Roethlisberger, who is a pretty good quarterback. But yeah, no, he was everything at one point. And to think that he was a 6th round pick out of Central Michigan, the Chippewas, and to be able to do what he did. I remember one play in particular where he literally kicked the guy in the face during a punt return.
Oh, I love that one. I love it.
Spencer Lanning got kicked in the face.
I love
in
that.
the face. And, I mean, he was pretty much everything. And like you said, he was a smallish receiver, but at one point he was the best receiver.
The killer bees.
And then Burfict ruined him.
Yeah, he was a killer bee.
Yeah,
he was a bee killer.
Yeah, when they had Le'Veon Bell and then Juju Smith-Schuster when he was actually good. So, but yeah,
that 1 millisecond of Juju.
the 1 year, and they're like, "Oh, we're fine."
We've got a Juju. Oh, he's broken.
Oh,
Funny, I don't even have him anywhere on my list because
Really?
you know what? Forget Antonio Brown. Crazy, but no, there has been so many times that, and this is a personal vendetta, just so y'all know. There's been so many times when he was acting stupid back in the day, doing stupid stuff before he got hit by Vontaze Burfict, that I defended him, and I was like, "No, dude, he's a diva. What receiver is?" I defended this man so much, and then he went on a show with a pacifier in his hair, looking like the dude from Marlon Wayans on a podcast. And from that point on, I have no defense of this dude whatsoever. So should he probably be on my list? Yes, but forget him. I'm not dealing with him.
I didn't even pick him just because I was like,
I think my whole list would get bad juju by putting him on here. So I'm good. Okay, so at number 10, not to beat a dead horse or to repeat what Sam just said a couple minutes ago, I got Isaac Bruce at number 10. So, we're not, I mean, he's got him a little lower than me, but yeah. For all the exact words that he said, I have them. Isaac Bruce also has 1,024 catches with 15,000 yards, 15,200 yards, 91 touchdowns. 14 years for the Rams. Not only did he play with Kurt Warner, he played with Mark Bulger, he played with Trent Green. So his consistency was good throughout all of those quarterbacks. I don't ever remember him with San Francisco. So that's a little crazy. Does anybody else?
Yeah, I saw he was on San Francisco. I was like, damn, really?
Does anybody else remember him on the Niners?
I remember him briefly. He did
I don't. I mean, he got 108 targets. At like the second year before he retired, 835 yards.
He had that many targets when he was about to figgle for his AA.
Yes, the next year he played 15 games, and the next year he played 10. So I mean, that just surprised me. And again, a lot of it with me is longevity, but he was just, for everything he said, he was immaculate. He was amazing. And without him, they don't win the Super Bowl, and they don't get beat by the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
So, to not beat a dead horse, because for my number 10, I had Steve Smith Sr.
Oh, okay. We just swapped him.
We swapped him. I got Steve Smith Sr. Honestly, for the same reasons. He was unapologetic. He made Jake Delhomme look good. Honestly, the reason why they probably make that Super Bowl is because of him. He made Joe Flacco look good for that year, for the years he was there. I mean, there's nothing else you can say. And even out of retirement, he's a great TV personality. And he went out looking for beef because he was playing fantasy football and literally went up to DJ Moore and said, "I'm going to smack you if you ruin my team."
Or the Jerry Jeudy beef.
Yeah.
Or the Jerry Jeudy beef.
Mm-hmm.
He's still unapologetic. It's awesome.
So just to rewind a little bit with what y'all talk about with Isaac Bruce, there was a funny story because I went up to Canton. I was telling Sam about this before you got on, Eric, to go watch Peyton Manning get inducted in the Hall of Fame. Isaac Bruce was part of that class, and he had a really good story where he talked about like the whole year. For his whole career, there was one guy that called him that when they said that the Rams drafted him, the guy instantly called him the worst Rams pick they could have made. This guy's a bust. So he kept that grudge, that chip on his shoulder for a whole 16 years. And when he was getting inducted in the Hall of Fame, he brought it up.
Yeah.
It was just a really cool thing to me.
How many Rams receivers are in the Hall of Fame?
Let's see. I can do a quick Google check.
Only one?
That is a good question.
That would be fun. I mean, that would be outstanding, even if that becomes it. Because I'm trying to think of another great Rams receiver. I didn't see one on these lists when I was looking at them.
The only one I could think of besides him right now that should be in there is Torrey Holt, to be honest.
But yeah. But even if he's in there, Isaac Bruce went in before him.
Henry Ellard was actually pretty good back in the day as well.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't even think about Henry. I might
Yeah,
have thrown off my whole thing because he's probably in the Hall of Fame.
he might be. But,
Yeah.
I mean, he also played elsewhere.
Yeah, true.
So
Okay.
for my number 9, as Sam looks this up, did you already find it, Sam?
I'm looking right now. I got all their players, Rams franchise, pro members history, and I haven't seen one receiver yet.
That's crazy. Because that is a very
He is the
strong franchise.
only Rams receiver there.
So good call on that, Eric.
There we go. Yeah.
You know what also is a good call? My number 9 receiver is Steve Smith Sr. And go ahead. No,
You didn't think anyone was going to pick him, did you?
I didn't think anybody was going to have him on there.
No. I lived in North Carolina when he first came on the scene, and then I moved back down to where I'm from. And when you have the moniker of Mighty Mouse and you back it up, the first time he touched the ball, he ran a kickoff back against the Vikings for a touchdown, and that was the one win they had that year when they went 1-15. Dude was just, I loved watching him. I loved his brashness. I loved his attitude that he had. He had that spunk. And when he sat there and he went after Jalen Ramsey after Ramsey talked trash to him, and after he whooped his ass on the field, he told him as the reporter sitting there holding the mic to his face, "Ice up, son." And after that, I mean, I loved him before that, but after that, golden. He should be in the Hall of Fame. It's a crime that he's not. Steve Smith is my number 9 right now.
Okay. All right.
You thought no one was going to pick him.
I literally thought nobody, like I was writing him down like there's nobody else that's going to put him on.
They're going to be shocked by this.
Exactly. This is going to be the one that gets everybody, and everybody had him higher than me. So my number 9 is Steve Largent. I know that he had him on earlier. So for a lot of people that do not know or do not remember, the Seattle Seahawks used to be in the AFC West. I'm a diehard Chiefs fan. I grew up in Missouri. My dad was a Raiders fan. So there are multiple memories I have of my dad cussing that dude out in the middle of a game. Because this stupid what? Many of times him cussing him out. And I mean, he said the yards. There was a lot of records that he held. There's a lot of players now that know who he is. And he was just unbelievable. Like I forgot who went there. I think it was when Jerry Rice went there. He said that you could have my number.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
He
true.
literally said you could wear my number if you want to. And Jerry Rice was there for a sip of coffee. But yeah, Steve Largent.
Got him.
I remember the yelling. Remember watch this guy. Watch him. Look how good he is. This and this. Boy, can he be a Raider? So yeah, he is my number 9.
My number 9.
Yep, I'm a Chiefs. Yeah, of course. I'm a
You're a
keep
Chiefs
telling
fan, really?
No. I was sitting there. I was like, your dad's a Raiders fan and you're a Chiefs fan.
So my dad's military. We
Sorry,
moved
Sam.
to Missouri. He was a Raiders fan, and then we used to go to Raiders Chiefs game. The Chiefs
Okay.
mascot used to always come to our school, so of course I ended up naturally going opposite of my dad and going to the
Yeah, I
fan
did the same
right there.
thing.
Such a rebel.
Yeah.
My dad was a Giants fan, and I chose the Falcons. You can see the disappointment. My number 9, I wanted to put him higher, but I realistically couldn't. I have to pick my guy, Julio Jones. He was able to take any slant the distance. There was nothing you could have done to stop him. Honestly, the one memory I really remember of him, his rookie year, they were playing the Colts. I know it's the Colts, but this man was triple covered, falling down, and was able to catch his first touchdown. And I said, this man is going to be special. Watch out for him. He's going to make it people hurt. And he got me in trouble when I was in high school because he destroyed the Giants. They went to the Georgia Dome, and he absolutely slapped the Giants. And my history teacher was like, I can't stand you right now. Don't talk to me. You get an F for the day. And I was like, all right, well, can I at least leave then?
You know that is a destroying when teachers are giving kids bad grades because they lost.
My teacher literally goes, no one talked to him for the rest of the class. No one.
If he said you get an F for a day, you should have been like an F for Falcons.
Well, no, I already poured salt in the wounds because I was wearing my Julio Jones jersey that day. I said, what do you think of my number here?
He said, F, that's your grade. 18. That's your grade.
So your boy, just to prove that I have been watching some of y'all shows, your boy GF is going to like this. Tim Brown, number 8. He's actually the first receiver ever to win the Heisman Trophy award. Let that sink in for a second. He also has an NFL record 176 consecutive starts by wide receiver, which would make him the Iron Man of wide receivers.
Yeah.
Of course, he had issues with Al Davis, but who didn't?
Exactly.
But, Tim Brown was like one of those players I didn't really appreciate when I was watching him play. When you sit there and you look at the stats and everything, he was always consistent. And I think that was the main reason why. The man had 1,094 catches, 14,934 yards, and 100 touchdowns. He was consistent. And he did all this over a 16-year career. Now, of course, he did have like a little brief time where he went with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I think that was pretty much it for like a year or two, whenever they basically became the Tampa Bay Raiders, when they were just getting everyone from them. But Tim Brown was truly a special player, especially when he was younger. And in my opinion, when the rivalries were really good in the AFC West, when you had the Raiders against the Chiefs and the Raiders against the Denver Broncos, the Chargers didn't really have a rivalry with anyone because they're the doormat of that division at that time. Yeah. But yeah, Tim Brown, he's my number 8.
I got him high. We'll revisit him in a second. My number 8 is Chris Carter from the Minnesota Vikings. So a lot of younger people may not know that he was not drafted by Minnesota. He was drafted by Philadelphia. I actually did know that. I think he was using drugs at the time. And he basically, well, everybody in the 80s was using drugs. Okay.
Yeah. He ended up on the
he went to Minnesota, and I mean, 1,101 receptions, 13,899 yards, 130 touchdowns. Like, just stop at the 130 touchdowns.
Like Chris Berman said, all he does is catches them.
Exactly, 12.6 carries a yards reception. He is on the Hall of Fame All-90s team. He is an 8-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, Hall of Fame. And I'm going to be 100% honest. There's another reason why I think he's on there, because I think Randy Moss should thank his lucky soul that he got drafted to Minnesota to have a vet like Chris Carter teach him I'm not saying Randy Moss wouldn't have been Randy Moss without him, but I'm gonna give him a little bump up too because of the mentorship that he gave to.
I was gonna say veteran mentorship was good because I mean, to go to my last pick real quick, I mean Julio probably wouldn't have been as like he still would have been great, but like he had Roddy White,
Yep.
and before Roddy White had Joe Horn. Like it's just amazing.
Well, you also had Tony Gonzalez there at that time too, didn't you?
True.
Tony G came over as well.
Forget Tony.
Tony.
I want to go win a Super Bowl. I don't want to be with the Chiefs. That's why you guys haven't won a Super Bowl.
My
go through a rebuild.
I think Eric talked about him earlier. Andre Johnson is my number 8. I mean, yeah, the haymakers he threw on Cortland Finnegan. One of the just to kind of touch on different aspects though. His time with the Colts, I think, was a really good time too for him, and then his time with the Titans as well. He really was a AFC guy, I guess, AFC South specifically. He really did, I think, help elevate those teams a little bit. Like he gave them a little extra boost that they probably needed to continue to contend, you know. And he helped those younger guys to really help like develop those teams as well when they were there. And I also found out while doing some research, he was the special teams advisor in 2019 for the Texans. I don't know why they chose that specific position for him, but you know what? He stayed loyal to the Texans for a little bit, even though the Texans didn't really stay loyal to him.
No.
Until he started talking mess about him when the Deshaun Watson case happened.
Yeah.
And he asked for a trade.
I mean, whenever you go into those massage parlors and everything.
I mean, Cleveland, to do with Deshaun Watson, they had a massage parlor, like a masseuse convention going on at their stadium, like the week they traded for him.
You know, I think you're correct.
Yeah.
What's crazy is earlier when you were talking about DeAndre Hopkins, you were like laying it out on the table for me because you're like when he was getting a good grab and you know and talking like all this. I was sitting there the whole time. Was like I could so go with a Sean Watson.
You got a Deshaun Watson joke. You got it ready in the chamber, just like good grab.
Hands.
His quarterback still got some good hands.
He caught everything.
He just squeezed through the defenses. So number 7, Marvin Harrison. A little lower than some people would probably think, but he was also the fastest person to reach 1,000 catches in 67 games. He also holds a record with Peyton Manning, like a ton of records with Peyton Manning for a quarterback receiver duel, touchdowns, yards, all that. Like they're right now they're the bromance that everyone aspires to be in the NFL. But Marvin Harrison, he wasn't really like when he first got drafted. A lot of people didn't really expect him to do what he did. I mean, he was drafted 19th. There was a couple of receivers I believe that were drafted before him, but he just exploded. And he never talked trash. He was always quiet. He just came, did his job, put up them big numbers. At one time, he was a single season record holder with 143 catches, I believe, until Mike Thomas broke it with the Saints. And I mean, where's Mike Thomas now? But you know, Marvin Harrison, he just exploded out of his cuts, could catch just about anything. It's just crazy, like y'all were talking about earlier with the offense that they had around him. And for him to be able to put up the numbers that he did with all those other weapons around, it's just crazy because if he would have now granted it's Peyton Manning, but imagine if he was like the lone guy for a couple years because at one point they drafted these guys one after another. And they just seemed to hit on every single pick that they did, starting with Marvin Harrison. So Marvin Harrison is my number 7.
All right, so let's just continue this same conversation that we were just having because Marvin Harrison is my number 7 for all of the reasons why he said. So we'll make, of course, he has the 14,000 yards, the bromance with them, and he acted like he had been there, like he didn't celebrate. Like to me, that is more concerning and disheartening when you're that good and you score a touchdown. You just go, here you go, ref. I do this shit for a living. Let's just continue going on. Like, so we know how great he was. We know everything about him. We know that him and Peyton were one of the best connections that has ever seen. Because even if we say Steve, Joe Montana, Steve Young with Jerry Rice, the length that they played together was ridiculous. because he played his whole career with Peyton. Whole career. No other quarterback besides Peyton.
I mean, you would have thought they were twins at one point because they were just so in sync. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
They really were.
And he has 128 touchdowns. When your job is to catch balls
Thank
and
you.
score, that's what you do. Yes, okay.
Yeah.
After I got done, you started talking. I was like, I hope he hits stats.
I'm gonna hit the stat 128 on the touchdown. Yes.
Nice.
So my number 7, I'm gonna go with his teammate Reggie Wayne.
Mhm.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not gonna beat a dead horse here. So honestly, I'll just make my only other contribution is that he's still with the Colts. He's like one of their wide receiver coaches. I mean, that's how you know he's really good. Like he's trying to help all these young guys like Michael Pittman. No, the hell's his name? It's not Michael Pittman Jr. Isn't that the?
Yeah,
No,
It is
it is.
Michael Pittman Jr.
No, I'm thinking of the guy in the Nuggets, Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah, it was Michael Pittman Jr.
Michael Pittman Jr. Like, to help out all these guys, like trying to like help the Colts in the receiver room. That's how you know you got a good one there. That you literally bring him back to be a coach.
Yep.
So my number 6 is Chris Carter.
Okay.
You kind of already touched up on it and everything like that. Dude caught nothing but touchdown passes. What was crazy about it is he was actually claimed off of waivers after his addiction to the booger sugar for only $100 when he went to the Minnesota Vikings. And then what did he do after that? He just went off. I mean, 3-time All-Pro, 8 Pro Bowls, 3,899 yards. You look at all these stats, and it's just crazy to really think that for the first 2 or 3 seasons that he played, he didn't really do that much because he was always in trouble. He was always getting suspended, and it's just unreal to actually see this. And in another way, like kind of like what Steve Smith's a couple of the other guys that said it was a crime, it took him 6 years to make it into the Hall of Fame because of the issues that he had with the media and also with his drug issues. So Chris Carter, number 6.
So me and him switched 6 and 8 because my number 6 is Tim Brown. So we switched 6 and 8. So basically our 6, 7, and 8 are almost identical, just really different order. So
We're think alike.
everything that he said about Tim Brown. Tim Brown was also a kickoff returner. He was Offensive Rookie of the Year for the AP his rookie year in 1988. Hall of Fame All 90s team, 9-time Pro Bowler. Of course, he's in the Hall of Fame. And also, another reason why is I played Tecmo Bowl when it came out, and Bo Jackson was ridiculous in that game. But you know who else was ridiculous in that game that you could always throw to?
Mm-hmm.
Tim Brown. Tim Brown. You could Bo Jackson. Oh, you go do the run. Tim Brown over the top. So that game with Willie Gold and Walter Payton, and then Tim Brown and Bo Jackson, those were the teams. Of course, you had the Niners. They had a lot of good teams too.
Yes, they did.
But yeah, I remember Tim Brown, Tecmo Bowl. I remember that. My dad used to use him all the time, and I used to hate that dude. But yeah, he's amazing. He was one of the best receivers of his generation, and his numbers still hold up today.
Yeah, there was a rule that you couldn't pick the Raiders in my
You're
house.
not allowed to pick the Raiders.
Oh no, we didn't have those rules. Yeah, because as soon as somebody picked the Raiders, somebody else picked the Bears or the Niners.
Yeah, I was going to say. And William Perry had surprisingly great hands in Techno Super Bowl.
Yeah.
All right, now it's time to beat another dead horse here. My number 6, I got Marvin Harrison.
Okay.
So I'm not going to stick with the stats. I'm not even going to talk about what he did on the field because you guys covered all that. Being the nerdy person I am, let's talk about what he did in the virtual gridiron. If you ever played NFL Street Volume 2,
Yeah.
you played a pickup game, and your first pick was either Marvin Harrison, because his hands, literally his catching was maxed out, that if you threw the ball and it hit his foot, it teleported to his hand.
Mm-hmm.
There was no stopping him. There was never stopping Marvin Harrison, so you had to rush to pick him. And then you can pick whoever else you want. If you did not have the first pick, you were not getting Marvin Harrison, and you were screwed. You were screwed.
I'm pretty sure that was in real life, too. You could hit him on the foot. You still
Hit him on the foot, it just ended up in his hand somehow.
He's got to stick him down there? Not playing.
He just kicked it to himself.
So my number 5, and this is a little bit controversial because he's usually a little bit higher than this, is Calvin Johnson, Megatron.
Mhm.
And I mean, 6'5", 230 pounds, came out of Georgia Tech, who at the time all they did was option plays. So when he came out and he would catch like 3 or 4 balls, usually it was like for 30, 40 yards each time he caught it. So no one really understood what they really had with him. He has the most receiving yards in a season at, I think, 1,964. I need to get a live. Why do I know these numbers off the top of my head? But he is also tied with the most games with at least 200 yards receiving, and I believe that is 5. This is why my wife hates me sometimes. But he is only a 4-time Pro Bowler, only a 4-time All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler, but he only played 9 seasons. He got out while he can still walk. And, that's a really big thing. In fact, he became a first ballot in really a short season, short career at nine seasons. I mean, the only
Brady
other
was able to get drafted, win Super Bowls, and still didn't retire. And Calvin Johnson was able to do all that.
Exactly. And the only other line I could think of that is probably more revered than Calvin Johnson is Barry Sanders, which will be in another list that we will probably do later on down the road.
Mhm.
So Calvin Johnson, number 5.
All right. So when we get to the top 5, everybody knows who number 1 is. But 2, 3, 4, and 5 is all based off of, I've ranked them not only by their stats, but like the eye test and like because now we're getting to the nitty gritty. So it's the little itty bitty things that separate them. Yeah. So I have Terrell Owens at 5.
Okay.
Yeah. And the reason anybody that's seen Terrell Owens knows Terrell Owens was good. He has 15,000, almost 16,000 yards, 1,078 catches. He averaged 14.8 yards per catch. I thought that 153 touchdowns, which is still insane. Played with a plethora of different quarterbacks. He did it wherever he went, whether he was in San Francisco, whether he was in Philly, whether he was in Dallas, whether we're not going to talk about Buffalo and Cincinnati. So Philly, Dallas, and San Francisco. I think he was, he's a Hall of Famer, 6-time Pro Bowl, 5-time. But the difference with, I think the top ones, there's one guy that's up there that's not really, that's very similar to him, but it's just, he was too damn selfish. I think him being so selfish actually hurts him in a lot of manners, because when you're that good of a wide receiver, you should not be on the open market. There is no reason 8 years into your career, 7 years in, nobody wants to deal with you.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to deal with you. So that's the only reason why he's 5, because I'm splitting hairs right now. Because really, honestly, you could put any of the 5 that we probably have besides number 1, 2 through 5. You could switch them up however your flavor is.
I'm with Eric on this one. My number 5 is Terrell Owens. You're going to be picking hairs here. I will be acknowledging his time with Buffalo and Cincinnati, because those were just awful times for him. Awful times. You hit it right on the head, too. Like, no one wanted to deal with him. Where in 2012, he was out of the league. He went to an indoor flag football league. I did look this up. He played 8 games. He put up 420 yards and 10 touchdowns. He was still amazing, and probably a rec league there. He played in Canadian football. I think he was on the Montreal Alouettes. He put up some good numbers. And he played in the fan control football recently in 2022, where he put up 93 yards in 3 games. I know fan control football, you have too many yards. I don't really understand how that works still. But he was still able to play well after he retired, but he was also just a pain in the ass because he was he was just really selfish and just really rude.
Just to jump in before anybody in the comments jumps on him, he had 72 receptions, 983 yards, and 9 touchdowns in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
He almost had 1,000 yards year 14.
I think he scored more touchdowns than Chad Ochocinco that year.
Yeah,
I think that was
Buffalo, and even Buffalo wasn't bad for his age at age 36.
He also had Trent Edwards thrown to him, and
So before anybody jumps on him, what he's basically saying is it wasn't up to his standard. He's gone down a lot.
He still put up great numbers, but he's T.O. was putting up 1,000-yard seasons with everyone else. McNabb, Romo, and Garcia.
Yep.
So my number 4, it didn't matter who was his quarterback because he only had 2 good ones, and we're talking about Larry Fitz. Larry Fitzgerald has the second most receptions, second most yards behind who's going to probably be everyone's number 1. And I mean, he did it with 16 different quarterbacks through a touchdown pass to Larry Fitzgerald, 21 through a pass to Larry Fitzgerald. If Larry Fitzgerald had a competent quarterback outside of Kurt Warner and Carson Palmer, he would have probably done a lot more. He would have probably challenged for number 1. That's how good he was. Of course, a lot of people are like, well, man, what the hell are you talking about? The dude was an 11-time Pro Bowler with scrubs throwing that ball at him. I mean, 3-time All-Pro, biggest moment that he had. Everyone probably remembers it when he scored 2 touchdowns against the Steelers in that Super Bowl. But everyone remembers that 64-yard one where he just basically just left the whole defense behind him, looking up there at the screen, watching himself run into the end zone, only to lose the Super Bowl with a ridiculous catch by Santonio Holmes in the corner end zone with 35 seconds to go. He was the third or fourth pick. He was the ball boy for the Minnesota Vikings at one time. Dude was just he had the it factor the whole time, and he never complained, even though he played for a sorry franchise for most of his career. Yeah, he had Kyler Murray also thrown to him, but Kyler Murray wasn't. Well, I don't even really care for Kyler Murray anymore right now either, but Larry Fitzgerald, number 4. If he had a good quarterback, he would probably have challenged for 1 or 2.
You say Kyler Murray. Eric and I started a Madden series yesterday. First thing I did, trade Kyler Murray for Justin Fields.
Upgrade.
I got Larry Fitzgerald, number 4.
Yeah.
All of the same reasons that he said, except for I'm going to give him way more props because a 36-year-old Kurt Warner and a freaking past his prime Carson Palmer are not good quarterbacks. They were serviceable. Yeah. So the best quarterbacks he had were serviceable veterans that were serviceable. So they gave him a competent quarterback that was barely average or above, and he did. So imagine if he never wanted to get traded ever.
You mean Jake Skelton was not that guy?
I don't know. Josh Johnson.
You mean the greatest of all time?
Matt Leinart.
Josh.
Okay? Another thing is he was second in Heisman voting his sophomore year.
That's true. Yeah.
So his sophomore year he was second, which that rule he would have came out of sophomore year he was that good and would probably been a 1 or 2 pick in his sophomore year, but the fact that they had to wait till they were a junior. So I'm not going to harp on any. I mean, he's got he's got yards, he's got touchdowns, 121. Like you said, 16 different players have thrown touchdown passes to him. Let's put it this way. For a moment of time, the only player you knew on the Cardinals was Larry Fitzgerald. And that was
the players on the Cardinals
of the season of his career. You only knew Larry Fitzgerald. Point blank in the face of their team. Okay. Your turn, Sam.
Number 4 for me, I'm gonna go with Randy Moss. 2000s all-decade team, put up 15,000 yards and 156 touchdowns. Honestly, he could be higher, but I'll explain reasons why later, why I put him here. Honestly, the one big thing too, like his first year in New England, they basically went undefeated. Like that shows you what he meant to that team, like that 2007 team. Like he was able to make them undefeated. I think he's the only receiver that I honestly was like, dang, he made that cornerback. Oh wait, that's Darrelle Revis. He made him look like a peasant out there. Like that's the only time I've ever seen like Darrelle Revis actually struggle was against Randy Moss.
I like it.
Yeah, I like that. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, I was like, Anquan Bolden.
I thought about Anquan Bolden. I even thought about Joe Horn while we were talking.
Yeah.
And Anquan Bolden was a receiver with the Cardinals, and then he went over to the Ravens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was solid.
He ended up on the 49ers somehow.
I think he has the rookie record for receiving yards in a debut. So
does he really?
I think so. You can double check it because my number 3 is Randy Moss. Randy Moss was kind of like when you saw him going into the draft and everything, and everyone was blowing up, of course, this was back in the early 90s when smoking weed was
taboo.
Yeah, it was one of those deals where they're like, oh, no, he didn't. But Randy Moss just proved everyone wrong. And the fact that one team in particular that actually called him up, said, hey, we're going to draft you if you actually drop down to us, was Dallas. And then he goes out there with only 3 catches, gets 161 yards, and then smokes them for 3 touchdowns. And while Jerry Jones is sitting there watching them, it was just poetic justice. I mean, he set the receiving record at 23. We'll get to that later on the first pick. But with Brady, and he had 50 touchdowns with Brady in that short time that he was with the Patriots. He is a 4-time All-Pro, 6-time Pro Bowler. He was with 5 teams, which kind of shocked me. I was like, man, he was with 5 teams. But
2 of them really don't count.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
The Tennessee one really doesn't count.
And the 49ers.
49ers,
49ers.
Yeah, he was just trying to get a ring at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So those don't really count.
But yeah, whenever you saw him and everything, like you said, Darrelle Revis, it's the only receiver that he looked silly against. And I mean, it was just because he had so much speed. The dude constantly had hamstring issues because he had so much speed. And to see that he came from a small school like Marshall and to see where he actually ended up and everything, I know a lot of people are like, well, that don't matter anymore. Back then it did. And yeah, no, Randy Moss is my third.
Before moving on for a second, Anquan Bolding actually did not set the record. In 1996, Eddie Kennison put up 226 yards in his rookie debut. What's up?
Eddie Kennison played for the Chiefs at one point in time.
Yeah. Jerry Rice put up 241 yards in his rookie debut.
Really?
And Jerry Butler put up 255 in his rookie debut.
Who the hell is that?
No idea. And then 2 people actually beat Anquan Boldin. Justin Blackmon did back in 2012, putting up 236 yards, and Jamar Chase in 2022 put up.
Those 2 wouldn't count. Those 2 wouldn't count because they came after Boldin.
That's why I said more recently.
Okay.
That's why I wanted to preface that those are the only 2 to do it since Anquan.
So maybe he was one of the top ones.
Kennison was 96, Rice was 85, and Butler was 79.
Okay. I have no clue who Butler is. I should probably know who he is.
He's not
Jerry
Butler. I have no. That doesn't even sound. Yeah, Eddie Kennison was drafted by the Steelers. He did that with the Steelers. Okay. He
apparently, he's a former Cook County board commissioner.
I know, but yeah, there's a lot of these people that turned out to be like Lance Allworth. I think is like somebody. Yeah, when you look up some of these, Fred Biletnikov's son lives out here in Vegas. He coached
Jerry Butler was Jerry Odell Butler. He played for the Bills through 79 to 86.
Okay. So my number 3 is Calvin Johnson, and Hall of Fame, 6-time Pro Bowler, 3 times All-Pro. There's a couple things that do kind of suck with them because he was part of one of the worst teams ever.
Yep.
Yeah. He put up the 1,964 yards, 1,681 yards the year before that, 1,409. I mean, in 3 years, he put up more yards than a lot of people put up in their career. And this gives him the bump, kind of like Larry Fitzgerald being on the Cardinals. Nobody was on the Lions. And I don't care what anybody says about Matthew Stafford. I don't want to hear this stupid stuff that Matthew Stafford was good. No, he's not. Matthew Stafford is not that good. Did he win a Super Bowl? Yes, he did with the Rams. But look at what he had around him. He had one of the most loaded teams. They said, forget these picks, and got everybody on their team. So
the Lions, when Matthew Stafford was there, only had Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. No, he played for the Lions. The Lions.
We're talking about the Lions.
We're talking about the Lions, okay? So when it comes to, if he would have just at any point in time if he had paid for the Browns, he'd probably have more yards. Like he's like Barry Sanders. When you play for the Detroit Lions for so long and you're the best player, it just sucks the life out of you. So it's not that he was like, no, I can't play no more. I want to walk away when I'm healthy. He just said, I don't want to play for these people no more. I don't like football no more because they're the Lions.
This shit sucks.
It's
you guys.
This sucks.
Literally, just you guys suck. I'm going home.
Exactly. He put an Eric Cartman. So, and we already talked about Calvin Johnson, so we don't got to go through the stats, all of that stuff. But for the same reasons, and I got to give him way more. Mamas, come here. Stop barking at the cat. I got to give him way more credit because of the fact that he played for the Lions. Okay, look, come on.
Before I stay my number 3, why can't his animals be like my animals?
Just chilling.
Yeah, look, they're both just sleeping.
She's trying to play right now.
Well,
she's
it's
like,
also
you play with me, Dad.
And then I don't play. It's 11 o'clock where we live.
Yeah, that's true. So my number 3, I'm also going to be joining Eric here. I got Calvin Johnson. I'm not going to really, I'm not going to beat a dead horse here. I'm just going to say 2010's all-decade team, and even before the snap, usually you get a double team. No, this guy had to be double teamed on the line. You had to put 2 people on him before the ball was even snapped. That's how you know you're dangerous. Now, the reason why I also put him at 3, same reason. I mean, like he played for a short time. He basically took his ball and went home. Like I'm pretty sure, like he doesn't even want to talk football. He doesn't want to breathe the football no more. I honestly, he probably switched to pickleball at this point.
Very similar to Barry Sanders.
Dink and dunk.
Yeah.
Also, I just want to say one last thing. He should have 84 touchdowns instead of 83. That was a touchdown, you stupid referees.
Yeah, the Chicago Bears touchdown. I'm sorry. That was a touchdown.
What are you talking about?
Exactly.
Trust me, anytime whenever I couldn't stand Matthew Stafford because, of course, I'm an Alabama fan and Georgia, that whole rivalry that's going on. But when Matthew Stafford went up there, and that was about the time that we had all those great Bears defenses, and we would just light them up. I remember there was one game where I just sat there and Matthew Stafford just got pounded, and he's laying in the ground like, why am I here against Chicago in the middle of December getting lit up right now? I loved it when we put Matthew Stafford in the dirt. Number 2, y'all rated him lower. I rated him higher. Terrell Owens. I've always just liked Terrell Owens. It's mostly because I like the people that have that brashness, like Steve Smith and everything. This guy took it to another level. I loved his celebrations. I think he had better celebrations than Chad Ochocinco. With the Sharpie, the pom-poms, the popcorn, the celebration in the star, he pretty much did every iconic celebration you could think of in the early 2000s besides what Chad Ochocinco did. But he would gut it out for you. He was a selfish player. I mean, who doesn't remember the interview with the Philadelphia media where he's sitting there doing sit-ups in his driveway?
Yeah. He got sent home that day.
He did. And it was
basically like a kid at school. You're suspended for the day. Go home. Fine. Well, I'm going to go learn at home.
But he also played with a broken ankle in Super Bowl 39 and still torched the Patriots for 9 receptions and 122 yards.
He had a broken ankle. He came back off of the ankle.
He still had a screw in his ankle, though.
Yeah, because that was a horse collar tackle.
Yeah, from Roy Williams.
Yeah, so he missed like those couple games, but yeah, he only came back in the playoffs. You're 100% right. He only came back. Yeah, he came back and destroyed the Patriots. You are right.
But there was a lot of times that he was probably the best player on that field on both sides of the ball, and I just think that he was, the only thing about it, like you said, he was selfish and he had a lot of problems with the media and everything. And he really should have also been a first ballot Hall of Famer. But the reason why he wasn't was because the media hated him that much because of all the stuff that he would do to him. And it was after 3 years, they finally let him go in. So my number 2 is Terrell Owens.
Like a dummy, he decided to go someplace else and put on a gold jacket.
I know, right?
Selfish, but. Okay, so look, I my number 2, I don't understand. Like, I don't know. I think y'all saw my face drop. but I have no clue how nobody's number 2 is Randy Moss. Let's put it this way, okay? There is a 2-year period of time where Randy Moss did not exist in the NFL. And this isn't after New England when he went with New England, Tennessee, and San Francisco. There's a 2-year Randy Moss did not exist in the NFL so much. Didn't the Patriots trade a 4th or a 5th round pick for one of the greatest receivers of all?
Mm-hmm.
If you take away that 2-year span of him not existing, because no people go to Oakland at that time to die. So you like, yes, he had 553 yards and 1,005 yards. And he played 13 games. In what world should Randy Moss play 13 games and have 553? The immediate next year, he has 1,493 yards. So, like, there was that period of time, and at the end, that you just look at him and go, if you would have just had a Randy Moss season or got traded to New England instead of then, you got another 15, 2,000, maybe 3,000 yards.
Probably a Super Bowl too.
Also, when he went to a real team, it was unstoppable. Like when he's been on 2 of the highest scoring teams in the history of the NFL up into a certain point, and that was the Minnesota Vikings that lost to the Atlanta Falcons in the play, and the New England Patriots. There's a common denominator. Randy Moss. So I have him as my number 2, straight cash money, and there we go.
Giving meter maids some rides on their hood.
Exactly. My number 2. I'll give Eric 1 second. But I put Larry Fitzgerald here.
Nice.
Okay, I love it.
Larry Fitzgerald, my number 2. One of the things is he only had 29 career drops throughout his whole career. That was it. 29 career drops.
Wait, hold on.
I mean, if you have Jake
he
Skelton
almost had as many drops as quarterbacks that threw him passes.
Yeah.
That is
You want to know what's even more insane? He has more tackles than he has career drops. He has 37 tackles.
That's impressive.
29 drops.
That means he's at least had been on the field when they've thrown 37 interceptions.
Exactly. I'm pretty sure he was there for all of them. John Skelton had all 38 of them.
Good old John Skelton.
But this dude, you're telling me this guy only dropped it 29 times after being thrown to him so many times. That is why he is my number 2. You can tell me all these stats, all these other things. The guy he had hands of glue. His hands were stickum. He didn't have to put them on.
Yeah, true.
I like that.
Nope, I can't get mad at that. Even though I just said I don't know what y'all talking about, but I can't.
I know, seriously. What are y'all talking about? He only had 29 drops. All right, never mind.
Never mind, that's good number fucking 2. Shit. Everybody has the same number 1.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know what you're talking about. My number 1's different. Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah, I was thinking Brian Johnson, the guy that was also with Anquan Bolden and Larry Fitzgerald in the Cardinals uniform.
You mean no, Jerry Butler. I mean, we just looked him up. We know he's better.
He's the
he
best.
Put up more receiving yards in his rookie debut.
So I'm going to leave y'all some stats too. I'll point out a couple, but it's Jerry Rice. It ain't even close.
It's his name.
It's crazy when people sit there and they talk about, like, I've actually gotten in arguments where people have said to me, Med, it's Randy Moss. No, it's not Randy Moss. It's Jerry Rice. When you look at what he was able to do, the record that Randy Moss set with 23 touchdowns was done with a 16-game season. Jerry Rice scored 22 in a 12-game shortened season back in '87. This is how great this guy was. He made Deion Sanders look goofy sometimes. Like and this is another Hall of Fame cornerback where he just roasted this guy like a marshmallow every time he saw him. And it's just some of the stats. I want to say them, but I'm going to give y'all both, or at least Eric, a chance.
Let him get a chance. I got my own, I got my own speech here. I'm ready.
You're ready? But I mean, statistically speaking, He's 117 receptions ahead of second place. He's 5,402 yards ahead of second place. He has 212 touchdowns altogether. 197 of them are through the air. I mean, this dude, the only other person that is remotely close to him in total touchdowns is Emmitt Smith, I believe. And even then, you're talking about a running back who gets the ball a lot more than a receiver. And I'll leave everything else for everyone else so they can get in on this train that's about to roll through this station with Jerry Rice, because there's a reason why we're stiff for Rice right now. And I considered him more of a GOAT than Tom Brady at times because of what he was able to do in a position where he had Joe Montana and he had Steve Young most of his career, but those records are not going to probably be broken. And that's with a pass happy NFL now. So number one, Jerry Rice.
Yep. Okay. I can't argue that. We all knew Jerry Rice is number one. We don't have to say the stats. We all know how good he is. Do I think some of his records will be broken? I 100% think they will be broken, just due to bigger size, more games, they throw way more. I'm not saying a thing you would have to have is also longevity. And in this day and age where players don't get touched, you may see a lot more players start to catch him. So they'd also have to be in good situations because Jerry Rice was in great situations. And not a lot wasn't because he got lucky. A lot of the situations were great because of Jerry Rice, where he made the teams great. So, I mean, I don't have to say a whole bunch about him. We know who he is. We know what he's about. We know he is the famous guy that he won Dancing with Stars and was on Dancing with Stars. We know he does all these stupid commercials now, like an old grandpa that nobody ever wants to see anymore, like the copper fit and all this other stupid stuff that he does. But the only stat I got is, and this is what I'm trying to explain to you also, we need to just block out Randy Moss's Oakland days, because receivers went to Oakland to die at this time. Granted, Jerry Rice went to the Super Bowl with them because Jerry Rice, Tim Brown on the side where they got beat by Tampa Bay. But Jerry Rice also had 274 straight games with at least one catch. And it was ended in Oakland because everything ends in Oakland because they suck. So he went from 1985. The last time Rice didn't catch a pass was 1985 up until, that doesn't even make sense. Hold on.
Was it when he was in Seattle?
No, it was 2004 in Oakland. Yeah, 2004 in Oakland. From 1985 to 2000, the last time he had not caught a pass was 1985. And he lost in the Oakland Raiders 13-10 victory over the Buffalo Bills. That's when the game was in 2004. Then he got traded to Seattle. So, I mean, 274 straight games with the catch. That doesn't mean he played in 274. That means if you threw the ball at him in 200, he was at least catch. Then there's another one. I think it's 200. Jerry Rice has the most games with more than 0 receptions. So he has 296 games that he's played where he has more than 0 receptions. So that means in all these games, no matter what, you just kept throwing the ball at him. Just throw it at him. It doesn't matter how old he is. It doesn't matter where he plays at. Just doesn't matter who's covering him. Just throw the ball at him. Sam, that's what I got.
So, I mean, Nelson Aguilar, without him, the Philadelphia Eagles wouldn't have won their Super Bowl in 2017. You know, that 768 yards he put up that season, masterclass. No one is going to catch up to him. Without him, we wouldn't be talking about Mac Jones. He put him on the map in that 2021-2022 season. And the reason why Lamar won MVP this year was because he threw it to Nelson Aguilar. Come on.
Why are you talking about Nelson Aguilar? It took me a good 30 seconds to be like, what is he doing?
I had that pulled up ready to go. I had that bit ready.
1B.
1B, there you go.
You see, Nelson Aguilar. Okay. I mean, for Jerry, I mean, you guys hit everything on the head. The only thing I got is there is a record that won't be beaten. He put up 2,169 yards over the age of 40 with 10 touchdowns. I don't see any receiver ever coming near that, because I don't see any receiver playing over the age of 40 anymore.
Another thing we got to talk about is his work ethic. That is something that people don't understand. His work, Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan work ethic. Like when you hear players talk about how he would work out in the incline, he would have it on, and his route running and the crispness was amazing.
It really was. I mean, Nelson Aguilar really knew how to do it all.
Look, the only thing, every time you say Nelson Aguilar, I think of that dude that said they were throwing stuff out of the windows, and I caught it, unlike Nelson Aguilar.
What's funny is that was going to be my next bet. People on the news just talking about him for no reason, you know? Like, that's how you know he's that big.
Yep.
Also, another thing that we all been point out is that there was 1 year where he actually got injured in the first game against Tampa Bay when Warren Sapp tackled him and he tore his ACL. So he lost one whole season and it was in his prime.
Yep.
So just add that into it, like how Eric was talking about Randy Moss and his 2 seasons. Imagine how much further away these records would have been if, for one, not just him losing that 1 season, but if he played a full season when he set the 22 touchdown mark with 12 games.
Can we just to rewind? I'm gonna give more flowers on top of that because I don't think you did that enough justice. He said when Randy Moss was in his prime. So just so we know, Randy Moss had a long prime, a very long prime. So when a lot of people say in their prime, you think 28, 29, maybe 30. Randy Moss was 35. I'm not Randy Moss. Jerry Rice. Jerry Rice was 35 when he tore his ACL and played that. He played in 2 games, tore it in the second game, had 7 catches, 78 yards. The next season, he put up 1,157 yards and 9 touchdowns. So at 35 years old, he tore his ACL and came back from it and continued to play for another 7 years at a time when tearing your ACL was basically a totally different thing than what it is now.
And not like just play, but dominate.
Exactly. So I just want everybody in the comments that's watching to understand when we said prime, we meant Jerry Rice had a long prime. So 30, he was 7 years younger than me, tearing his ACL and going back to play. If I stub my toe, I'm not going to play tomorrow. Okay,
I'm done. I'm good.
I'm out for.
See this
if
bench
I twist
right
my
here?
ankle, I'm out for a good 2 to 3 days.
There was actually one other thing, and this is a video game. Because, like you said, the legendary workouts that not only Jerry Rice had, but Walter Payton. Madden 2012, a lot of people usually they just smash the A button. There is actually a pregame pep talk by Ray Lewis that will make you want to run through the wall. Yeah, Madden 12, the one with Calvin Johnson on it.
Yeah,
look
Madden
it up
13.
on YouTube. Yeah, it's one of those like. You sit there and you're ready to put on the pads again, go out and get nailed one time and be like, okay, that was good.
I've had multiples of those experiences, not with professionals, but because I'm a little guy where I go up against somebody and be like, this is not meant for me.
All right. First, I got 2 points here. Jerry Rice was so good, he has an entire game based off of him.
Yeah.
Jerry Rice and Nidus Dog Football for the Nintendo Wii.
Oh, really?
Yes. It was terrible. But that's the greatest. Like, him and his dog have a game.
That's how great he is.
Yes. But we're not talking about the real greatest receiver ever. Kelvin Benjamin. Those years he put up with the Chiefs, to the moon.
I don't even remember Kelvin Benjamin being on the Chiefs. You know what I remember about Kelvin Benjamin? I remember Kelvin Benjamin running from the smoke with Cam Newton when Kelvin Benjamin was on the Bills. Now, at the time, we all thought Kelvin Benjamin was a little put for running from it, a little soft for running from Cam. But now we know Cam is about that smoke after he knocked out 3 people and didn't go to the ground and his hat didn't.
4.
Yeah, 4. So we understand now why Kelvin Benjamin ran. But at the time, nobody understood that Cam Newton was about that smoke.
I'm sorry. You saw Cam Newton run through like 5 different defenders and said, I could fight him.
There's one interesting thing about Kelvin Benjamin and Cam Newton is the reason why Cam Newton had that, of course, the shoulder surgery. That's pretty much when it was over. But did you know that it was because Kelvin Benjamin did not make a tackle? That Cam Newton actually threw an interception. Kelvin did not try to make the tackle, so Cam went and did it, and that's when he injured his shoulder.
I don't want to hear anything about that because Cam didn't jump on a fumble in the Super Bowl. I don't want to hear anything. I'm letting you know, Cam Newton is what you two. If you don't knock it off, is one person I will not defend. Like I can't defend him. He looks like a clown. He acts like a clown. He literally on a press conference said it's funny to hear women talk about routes and thought he was cute. I have no defense for him. Anytime somebody brings up something about Cam Newton, I'm coming right back at it because what were you doing in New England? What were you doing? Stop it. No, I can't.
Hold on. Do you remember that one commercial of the kid winding up his arm?
I love that. I'll make my mom my best friend. Why?
That's Mac Jones.
Why are you the only 6'5" quarterback that people are running up to trying to fight? I don't know, because you make people think because you talk stuff to 12-year-olds. I don't like, no.
But he's rich.
I don't care. And he's broke. He's a free agent. He ain't playing. I'm better. There's not 32 quarterbacks that are better than me. Did you see you play in New England? There are 32 quarterbacks that are better than you.
I'm sorry. Zach Wilson is not better than him.
Did you see him play in New England?
Did you see Zach Wilson?
Listen, I don't care.
Todd Boyles.
Cam Newton played in. Did we see him play in New England and Carolina? Are we going to forget that didn't happen?
Yeah.
We're not going to forget it, but I don't think those years he spent, his few years with the Panthers and his New England time is not worse than Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle.
Healthy.
It is worse. You know why? Because you got to deal with his stupid circus media and his dumb outfits and his stupid mouth. Yes. Not Zach.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we talking about stupid mouths? Are we Zach Wilson?
Never mind. You see how I shut that up real quick? I was like, oh, I knew you were going to
leave the MILF hunter out of it.
It's not Zach Wilson's fault that old women like him and he's attracted to them. That's okay.
I'm not even talking about that. He was unapologetic when he threw the interceptions, when his defense bailed him.
Yeah, I can't say shit about that. I can't.
I'm sorry. 31 quarterbacks are better than him. I will give you that.
Yeah, get your water.
I can't even say nothing about that. Yeah. I'm going to choke on what I was going to say, so just keep that.
Look, I'll just throw out another random receiver name and just, try to praise them like I just did with Nelson Aguilar and Kelvin Benjamin.
Listen, I'm telling you right now, I'm not saying, I'm saying I'm right today. I'm taking Zach Wilson over Cam Newton. Today's Cam Newton? The Cam Newton that hasn't played in 2 years?
Well, I mean, no, and I get that. But there's a difference between game changers and game managers.
No, I know, I agree with you. But that's what the problem is. Newton is a game manager. Like, Newton's athletic ability gave him so much more. And once he lost that, he was no longer a threat. Like, he was never a good passer. He was just very big and couldn't be taken down and complained all the time. They hit me too hard. Shut up. You're 6'5", 260. Shut up.
Go wear your grandma's clothes.
Cam Newton gets no flack for me. No.
Whoa, he went to the thrift shop with McElroy?
He did.
I'm so tired of the woke
popping tags. Well,
now he's saying I should have jumped on the ball. You should have jumped on the ball. That showed your heart. That showed everything I needed to know about him. He's doing Superman poses all season, and then
the
dapping all the way to the Super Bowl, baby.
I couldn't stand that, man.
I love Luke Kuechly, though. He was one of my favorite players of all time.
Their defense and their run game was what carried them to the Super Bowl. I
don't think it's Steve Smith Sr.
So that'll do it for this episode. This is a special episode. So, thank you guys for coming on here, hanging out with me, talking about some all-time great receivers. We'll talk about doing some other positions and everything after we get off the air. Quick plug, if y'all want to do it one more time, go for it.
So if you're watching this on our YouTube channel or our Facebook, you already know where we're at. For all of Shots from the Sidelines people, thank you for having us on. We had a blast. Of course, we can link up again. I am the Vegas Benchwarmers along with co-host Sam. There are 4 of us. And we are on social media at LV Benchwarmers. Twitter is the best place to get in contact with us. And then everything else is Vegas Benchwarmers.
And if you enjoy gaming content, make sure to check out my show at Kelderock or Kelderock Show. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, wherever you want to find me. OnlyFans if you're really feeling frisky. Thank you for dealing with my nonsense because as you can tell, I tell a lot of stupid jokes.
Well, the Nelson Aguilar thing, as soon as you said it, I looked, my eye drifted over to my computer screen and I was watching Eric the whole time.
I was like, what is he?
If you ever watch us when we're live, I always like to throw curveballs at him and Mo and everybody. That's what I do. I'm just, I come
but
up
you
with
also keep us on topic. Like you bring us in. You throw the curveballs he'll throw a curveball to get us off topic, and then be like, okay, we need to bring this back in, guys.
I forgot one of the ones. I remember I threw out the weirdest thing at you, and I'm like, all right, well, I ruined this.
And of
course,
course, my name
for having us on. This was a blast.
Ain't no problem. And of course, my name is Med. Seth is usually with me. We will be taking a break during the summer. We'll be making some recorded ones. Not this one. Originally, this was going to be during the summer, but this is too good. I'm going to go ahead and release this tonight. I will send y'all if y'all want, I could send you the download to your email. And
send over any links. I'll be happy to post.
All right. And next week, I'm going down to Miami. Mom's 70th birthday. Woo.
Celebrate it.
Gotta celebrate that, man. That's a big number. I will have Steve talking about Packers on with me and Seth. We'll have our state of the franchise where we talk about it'll be actually your Chiefs will be one of the teams, the Ravens, the Lions, and who else am I leaving out there? The 49ers. Why would I leave them out? So we'll be talking about that.
Because the world forgot about them.
Yeah, I almost forgot about them. I mean, after the Chiefs beat the mess out of them in the overtime. I mean, it is what it is. Great Super Bowl, by the way. Other than that, you're about to listen to something that sounds like 80s music on the outro. Y'all have a nice night.